Hi everyone and welcome. I'm Mary Michael Brewerton, the intern at Georgia Fruit and Vegetable Grower Association. And today we're here in Lake Park, Georgia with Mr. Wendell Stockton with Greenway Farms. He's the Director of Food Safety here. So Mr. Wendell, will you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, I'd be happy to. So I graduated from Mississippi State with a degree in microbiology, and I initially went to work for Sara Lee Corporation before I graduated college. And I was a corporate microbiologist for several years and kind of cut my teeth in the food industry, and just in the last 5 years have transitioned over to the produce industry.
So how did you get started with food safety?
So food safety kind of comes naturally to a microbiologist. I was kind of around at the very beginning of when listeria first came on the scene as being a food safety problem. Actually, Sara Lee was one of the companies that suffered greatly from that, and so it changed the industry, and I was in it right as the industry kind of cut its teeth on all of the changes where the culture of the food industry really changed drastically during the late 80s, early 90s, and I was right there in the middle of that at that time.
So what challenges do you face on a farm with food safety?
On a farm specifically with food safety, the challenges are largely related to animal intrusion. Luckily for us, most of our fields, as most people in South Georgia and North Florida, are very remote and they're fenced to some degree, and so we don't have a lot of intrusion by people. But just like everybody else, we have deer and we have hogs and things like that that will come into the fields, but we keep it minimized because we have a lot of people around most of the time during the time that our crops are growing. We're checking on them on a regular basis.
So what changes have occurred with food safety during COVID-19?
So that's a great question. The really interesting thing about it for the food industry is that there's been a lot of reaction to it. And that reaction is, what do we do? How do we handle things differently? But the reality of it is, the majority of the things that are being done are just enhanced measures that were already in place. More hand washing, more attention to the sanitation processes. But the food industry itself is way ahead of that curve. We kind of developed a lot of the programs and the protocols that are being used by the rest of the country for handling this issue.
So what is the most important part about food safety on a farm?
So food safety on a farm is a challenge because you just got so many natural environments. Every area that you go to has its own challenges. There may be sinkholes in this part of the country. You got sinkholes to deal with. A lot of the country has to deal with water issues. This water is one of the biggest problems with produce. And for us, we're blessed. We have all of our crops are being grown on deep wells, and so we don't have to deal with any of the problems that a lot of people do with surface water. But surface water and the opportunities for contamination of surface water are a very, very big problem for the food industry, especially with fresh produce.
So with fresh produce and handling your produce, how do y'all on the farm, how do you handle the produce to make sure it's safe for the consumers?
I would say that the most important things are time and temperature. That along with good hygiene of your handlers, which a lot of our crops are handled from the time that they're planted until the time that they get into the package. There's hardly any human contact, but we're fortunate with that because there's not a lot of need for people in the process. It's all highly automated. But on things that are picked in the field, getting it into the cooler or getting it hydro-cooled or whatever you can do to get the temperature taken out of it quickly is the most important thing in the world, because that has everything to do with the shelf life and longevity of the product.
What is one thing consumers should know about handling produce at home?
So the biggest thing about produce at home, and I mean I struggle with this in my own kitchen as well, is you really do need to wash your produce, because even though some of it has been through a washing process ahead of time in a packing shed, a lot of it hasn't. A lot of products are just, they're packed fresh in the field, and so when they come out of the field, that's how they get to your house. And so you have a responsibility to handle it in the most efficient manner that you can, and to try to make sure that you remove microorganisms from the surface.
So how, with washing, How should people wash their fresh produce when handling it?
So a lot of people think that you need additives, but the reality is that just a good, fresh, cold water is the best thing in the world that you can do to clean your produce at the house.
And so this question's a little fun for you. What is your favorite part about food safety?
Well, the greatest thing about food safety is that every single day is a new challenge. You come in and you have an expectation of what you're going to be accomplishing, and then that changes immediately from the very beginning. And sometimes, you have things come up, such as recently there's been a lot in the news about cyclospora, and that is an organism that cannot be killed with chlorine, and so that presents a whole new challenge, and it's becoming a pathogen of concern with the FDA, and so the whole produce industry has to be reactive to that. We're all trying to figure out what we need to do to react. And additionally, I got some great people that I work with. Very, very fortunate that I've got some people around me that support me well, and they really help us create a culture of food safety within our company, and we're supported from the top to the bottom in that culture. So it's a great place to work and a great job.
Well, Mr. Wendell, thank you so much for having me today and teaching us all about food safety. I know I learned so much about food safety and how to handle produce, which I hope you all have as well. So I want to thank again Mr. Wendell and Greenway Farms for having us today. Thank you.